to today's webinar talking about the Trimble Catalyst. Got lots of information I want to share with you just to talk about how the Catalyst can be a great solution or not a great solution, depending on what your workflow is and what your needs are out in the field. As a reminder, this is one of our series and our asset management series. My name is York Groh. I'm the mapping and GIS manager here at Duncan-Parnell and help oversee our product line as far as our salespeople, and then also working directly with clients in a particular sales area. So certainly welcome you today. Marissa Body has also joined us. She's from our marketing team, and she'll help me when I get in trouble. I'm going to try to move back and forth between a PowerPoint and some actually on-device screen displays. So trying to avoid the death by PowerPoint today. It's too beautiful a day to not take advantage of being able to show you some things live on the screen with Trimble Catalyst. As a reminder, this session will be recorded. And once that recording is finished up today with our webinar, within the next 24, 48 hours, we'll send that recording out. Marissa has everybody's email address, so she'll send that to you. And that way, if those folks who have signed up but were not able to join today can get a copy of that webinar as well and watch it at their pleasure. I will be using my video some right now, so you may want to adjust your screen size so you can see a little bit of me, mainly because I want to show some things in my hands as well as what we'll be looking at on the screen. And with that, we'll get underway. So a few years ago, Trimble began development on Trimble Catalyst. And I guess I want to start with a little bit of background and kind of tell you what it's not, or compare, contrast. So if you've used other Trimble equipment, whether it's been the more traditional Geo Explorer series, so an all-in-one type unit, or whether you've used the Trimble R1 and R2, connected with a Trimble data collector, or possibly connected to your own phone, you're accustomed to that type of workflow. Mainly the way the GPS receiver responds, the way it picks up satellites, the way it processes information, the way you as the user manage differential corrections, whether you do it in the field or whether you do it when you come back and do post-processing. So take all that knowledge of how the receivers work and kind of set that aside for a moment. What Trimble did with the Trimble Catalyst is they came up with a software to function as a GNSS receiver. So what that means is, in some of these all-in-one devices that Trimble's made, there's some pretty powerful components in here, processors and things like that, that do all the work to calculate the positions and give the output. So Trimble's idea was, well, the phones are now getting so good so that they have faster and faster processes, they're more robust. Is there a way we can take the harness the horsepower of a phone and make it into a GPS receiver? So they describe it now as a soft GNSS solution. So that means we're making and creating a GPS receiver based on software. Now we still need an antenna, and the antennas in a standard cell phone aren't good enough for multiple reasons. So that's why we're having to use the Trimble Catalyst antenna. You can see that here on the right-hand side of the screen. And so what Trimble's done is come up with a subscription service, and it's using software to actually generate that position based on the components, the computer components, if you will, that are integrated inside of your Android tablet, whether it's a tablet or a phone type device. It's based on a subscription. So you have a subscription for the level of accuracy you need, or do it based on a time period. And that way it can function as you need it over a period of time. It functions on most Android type devices. We'll talk a little bit more about that in detail shortly. There's not very much upfront cost. The antenna itself costs you $350, and then you choose the type of subscription you would like to use after that. It's fairly simple. It's plug and play. It's really flexible for what you need to do out in the field collecting data with multiple people or as a single use, incidental use. And we'll kind of clarify some of those constraints towards the middle and end of my conversation about when it's an appropriate thing to use and when it's not an appropriate thing to use. I'm realizing now I forgot to make mention. Feel free to ask questions at any point. Marissa will monitor our chat window, so if you can ask your questions right now through the chat window. And then towards the end of the webinar, we'll certainly be able to unmute you, or you'll be able to unmute yourself, and we can have a discussion back and forth about that Catalyst. If you've used it, what your experience been, or if you have questions about if it may work for your particular application. So again, not like a traditional G07 or an R2 and R1, but a very powerful solution that runs inside of a handheld device, whether it's a tablet or a phone. So a few more specifics on the hardware. The antenna itself is low cost, it's $350, and it doesn't weigh very much. So here's my antenna right here. Here's my hand. It's not a very big antenna at all. It's lightweight, easy to mount it on a pole, on a backpack. You could carry it, with your phone. It is better than just a normal antenna like you might get with any other type of a product for received signals. Trimble's put some multipath rejection capabilities in there and some stabilization capabilities as well to make it a highly productive. The antenna's plug and play. So it comes with a USB Type-C connection. So that's what the connection comes with on the end of the antenna. And then along with the DA1 antenna is shipped an adapter. Now my adapter is gray. The adapter that actually comes in the box will be a black one. That way, depending on what type of tablet or phone you have, if you have a traditional Type-C connection or if you have the micro connection, then either one of those will work. And then we also have the ability to power the antenna through an external component. So the antenna needs power. When you're connected to the antenna just with your phone, then your phone is providing power to that antenna. So therein comes one of the cautions as you're using the Catalyst antenna and your phone, because it can be that it's going to drain your phone quicker than normal. So it's kind of one of the things to talk about between a traditional solution and the Catalyst solution. If you're going to be using the Catalyst, 7 to 10 hours a day, there's a chance the Catalyst may not be the appropriate solution. It's going to pull significantly on the battery power of your tablet or your phone. However, there is the ability to hook up an external battery to the antenna itself. So here on the bottom, there's a cable connection, and this comes with the antenna itself. So they provide this an anchor. It's a circular external battery power. Then it plugs into the bottom of the antenna itself. Now, there's nothing magic about this external power pack. It happens to fit in this little product that Trimble sends along with it. So if you want to mount the DA1 antenna on a range pole, then this fits nicely on the pole and holds the battery right in there. But any type of external battery power you have will work. Let's talk about the cables for a moment. So I mentioned that it comes with a USB-C adapter, or excuse me, a USB-C connection, and then an adapter to take it down to a micro. All these cables are not unique to Trimble, meaning that you can go other places and get those cables. So some people need a longer cable to go with their antenna to get it to their device. The cables break over time. Again, these are not ruggedized cables. They're good quality cables, but they're not ruggedized. So if you're using it over a year or so for multiple hours every week, then the cable's probably going to wear out. But it's very easily a user replaceable cable. You can see on the bottom here, the cable goes up into this device here. Well, all this comes out. If I were to unscrew this yellow plug comes out. There's a Phillips head screw in there. I can easily take it out. And this is a very traditional USB cable. What's not quite so traditional is this adapter that goes from the USB to, or USB-C down to the US micro. There are some available. So here's one that we use, I've used for customers for a while. It is a third-party adapter that we know works well. I could also show you several that don't work. So there's just different technology out there and different qualities for how those adapters are made. We don't really have a good exhaustive list of which ones work and which ones don't work, but there are some out there. Trimble does provide them, so you can buy them from Trimble. but there's also some third parties available. If somebody's interested, this one's made by U Green, the letter U and then the word green. Whoops, don't need to hold it upside down. But that's who makes this particular product that I know works. That's the one I'm using right now with my devices. I've got it plugged in. The battery or the cable to supply the external battery is just a standard type cable connection as well. So nothing proprietary about that. That can easily be swapped out as well. All right, so we move on from the antenna. Now let's talk a little bit about the phone device itself. So 2 points quickly. This does not work with iOS. This does not work with Windows 10. So today, it only functions with Android. And it's important to make sure that it does function with your particular Android device. Most newer Android devices will work very well. Now, I say most because not all of them do. You'll see here on this slide, there are some specifications down there at the bottom. So most Android devices do work. The best way to test it, although it's hard if you're ordering your Android device online, is to actually install Trimble Mobile Manager. I will show you Trimble Mobile Manager on my phone here shortly. It's a free app downloaded from the Play Store, and you can tell the Trimble Mobile Manager that you want to use a Catalyst, and it will look at some things on your device and tell you whether it's fully compatible or not with that Catalyst. Again, I'll show you that app on my phone, but that's the best way to get it connected. You know, we've had customers recently that have bought new or mostly new Android devices, and sometimes they don't work. Often, you know, I've got a Samsung phone that I'm going to be using that works great. Samsung tablets work. I know there's multiple other types of devices that work really well. Now, at the same time, you know, Trimble does have some handhelds that work. If you're not familiar, the TDC 600 is one of Trimble's rugged devices that works very well with the Trimble Catalyst solution. So just things to consider as you're looking for what type of Android device you would like to be able to use, and consider the battery supply as well. Again, because we're using the battery from the phone, you have to be conscious of how long you're going to be outside using it. I'll plug my external battery up in a moment just so you can see how that functions. Then I'm going to disconnect it when I actually walk around and collect data. If you need to collect data for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, an hour and a half, then it's not really a problem to use the battery coming from your phone, which is a typical scenario for how Catalyst is appropriate. The last thing I want to point out, and I may mention it again, notice the last characteristic there when it talks about the minimum Android specifications, the USB on the go. So one of the capabilities of the external battery pack not only is to power the antenna, but also is the ability to power your phone or to recharge the battery on your phone at the same time. However, you have to make certain that the manufacturer of your phone supports that USB on the go or the USB OTG capability to make sure that you can actually receive that incoming battery charge through the Catalyst antenna. So again, lots of different devices, some Trimble, some non-Trimble. You know, the idea is you can bring your own device. Certainly, we'd love for you to have a rugged device that has an all-day battery power, great sunlight readability, but the whole point of Catalyst is to be extremely flexible in how it's used. That was one of the reasons that Trimble brought this to market, was to help provide a product to people who otherwise wouldn't be doing GPS. So when you think about Catalyst, don't think of it as, okay, well, it's a lot cheaper, at least initially. Can I use it to replace what I'm doing with my R1? Can I use it to replace what I'm doing with my R2? The answer is probably not. That's not the point of Catalyst. The point of Catalyst is not to replace the products that we have in the marketplace right now. It was to add the capabilities for other people to do things that may not normally do or be able to do or afford with an R1 or an R2 type device. I've got a unique application. I should have put the picture up, but I've got a client in Southwest Virginia, and they use it once a year. And what they use it for is cutting or marking out and then cutting paths in a maze, a corn maze. So they attach the Catalyst to their weed eater, and they go out and watch the map on their screen with the Catalyst guiding them and cut out whatever design they have for a corn maze. That's a great application. They only need it once a year. They need it for probably 3 or 4 hours while they're cutting the corn maze. Turn it off. Next week, they might go to set up a different corn maze. Very appropriate application for the Trimble Catalyst. So we've got the hardware part. We've got the antenna that plugs into the Android phone. And then the second part is a subscription. So this is what's very new to those people having used traditional GPS type devices. Normally you make a capital investment and you purchase the hardware and then you're done. You might need a subscription for a real-time correction source, but that's about it. Okay, Trimble Catalyst takes that and turns it differently. We pay a low cost for the antenna, and then you pay for the service to use it and to get the accuracy when you need it. If you only need 2 meters of accuracy, don't pay anything. Pay the $350 to get the antenna. If 2 to 3 meters is good enough for what you need, then you don't need a subscription at all. And then here's the other options for the different accuracy levels. So we have 4 different accuracy levels that are available per month. So you pay a monthly fee, and then for that period of month, from the first of that month to the end of that month, then you can use it as much as you like, and there's a cost for that. Then we also have another option, which is over here on the right-hand side, the kind of on-demand. This is different because it's a package of hours. So you pay $10 an hour, you have to pay a minimum of $100, and you get 10 hours of use. You have to use that 10 hours within a year. So if your use is very incidental, and it's not even a full month, and instead of paying for a full month subscription, get 100 hours of use, and then you have 365 days to use those hours. And I'll show you how that functions in the software in just a moment. One of the important things to recognize about these levels of accuracy is there are some constraints on where they can be used. And I want to show you that here on a website. So give me just a moment to flip over. Too many pages open. So here's the site on which you can actually purchase the Catalyst antenna and then purchase the associated subscription. Or if you already have the antenna, here's where you can purchase the subscription for what you need. So you can see the precision here, and then 1 meter, submeter, decimeter, and precision. So for 1 meter and submeter, I'm going to pull up, the important thing I want to point out here is this coverage area. So I'm going to, for submeter, I'm going to click on coverage area, and it's going to take me to this map of the globe. So if in the entire globe, I can get submeter accuracy with that subscription purchase. If I'm in the dark blue area, then I'm going to get down to about 50 centimeters. If I'm in this lighter blue area, so in Europe and all of continental United States, a little bit in Canada, and then multiple places in Australia and New Zealand, in those places, I'll get down closer to 30 centimeters with that sub-meter accuracy subscription. Then let's say I need decimeter. I'm going to touch on this coverage area. So again, if I want 10 centimeters, then the coverage area is the same for the 10 centimeters. Now make note here, the only places that I can get decimeter level accuracy are in these light blue areas. The rest of it's restricted to 50 centimeters. Notice that mirrors what we got at sub-meter. This is important to note. So for most of the people we're talking with today, I suspect you're all here on the East Coast, so you're well within that coverage area. But one of the nice things about Catalyst is the ability to use it internationally. So we have some clients doing various different work in various parts of the world. Catalyst can be a great solution for them depending upon what accuracy level they need. All right, now let me point you to the last one, which is the precision. So the precision coverage map would be similar to the precision hours, the 100 hours. I'm going to touch on that. All right, so now we have a different map. So if I want down to several centimeters, down to that 1 to 2 to 3 precision, the only places I can get that are in these very light blue areas. I'm going to qualify that only places I can get that in just a moment. But for right now, just trust me, In these light blue areas, those are the only places you can get the 1 to 2 centimeters. In the medium shade of blue, I can get down to that 10 centimeters. And back to the dark blue, I can get down to 50 centimeters. So at this point in the discussion, if you're going to be in Africa using the catalyst, don't buy a precision subscription. Don't buy a decimeter level subscription. Just buy a sub-meter subscription. Because even if you purchase a more expensive subscription, you're not going to be able to use it. The qualification is we also have the ability to augment the corrections for Catalyst with a local VRS network. So notice now it gives you a visual on the map. If I say, yes, I can use a local in-trip connection, it's that slider bar, now everything turns light blue. So if I have the ability to use a local VRS, then I can definitely get down within that several centimeter, no matter where I am within the world. So what that means for our general area, if you're in the Carolinas, you could augment it with the South Carolina network, the North Carolina network. So in Virginia, we have a KeyNet system that covers part of that. West Virginia has its own network, just like North Carolina and South Carolina. And then Tennessee also has a DOT-run network. Maryland and Delaware and Washington, D.C. are covered by the KeyNet type network. So there are ways to still get centimeter level accuracy in these areas, but now you have 2 different subscriptions to be concerned about, to be kept up with. But if you're in the Georgia, Florida area, which is also part of our territory, no additional subscription required. You can get down to within that several centimeter level question. And if there are any questions as I'm talking through this, please don't hesitate to ask. Marissa will interrupt me, I hope. I know she will.
Yeah,
if I can answer some of this questions. Yes, go ahead.
A question come through. Someone wants to know, how is the use calculated and how does it keep track of time?
Sure. So the use is calculated here. Great question. And I'm going to show you the answers to both, just not at the same time. So when I purchase a subscription here, then that subscription is delivered to an email address, and you have the ability to manage that subscription. And I'm going to show you where that can be done. So I'm going to go into my licenses. Now, this is inside of the Duncan-Parnell licensing. So there's lots of other things that Trimble uses this license portal to manage. One of those is Catalyst. So we have some demonstration Catalyst subscriptions. So for example, if you as the customer were to order a decimeter level subscription, then you would have a license manager that shows this right here. You would see a Catalyst decimeter, and it would be a question of here, who do you want to assign it to? So I create a list of users. You can have 100 users in here. And then when you're ready, you assign that user to a particular subscription. For today, for example, when I'm going to be showing you on my phone, I'm going to use the subscription allocated to this Duncan Rental 01. It's a fictitious person that we use for various different purposes for testing. But I've assigned that person this Catalyst decimeter subscription. Let me go back here. The precision, so let me clarify it one more time. This gets used per month. So if I pay $200, from whenever I purchase that, I have 30 days to use Catalyst, unlimited, and I can move people around. So I could go here and I could say, well, this week Duncan Rental's using it. Next week I'm going to assign it to somebody else. That's fine. You just move it back and forth during that 1 month. One thing to notice here on the licensing, please notice this bottom right here. Catalyst subscriptions are charged per month per user. Subscriptions are auto-renewing until canceled. So this will auto-renew until you go in your portal and cancel it. It's very obvious how to do that. If you're concerned that you may forget, something like that, then just get in touch with your sales rep and they can send you a 1 month subscription to be able to order without a problem at all. The on-demand or the precision on-demand is done differently. You're still allocated those licenses, for on-demand. Whoops, let me get down to where it is. But then it shows up like this. So right now, and I've paid for, hang on. So I've paid for 48 hours, and I have these people that have been allocated to be able to use it. So only these 6 different people, or 5 people, 6 people within our company have been allocated to use the Catalyst on demand. Again, I'll show you what that looks like in a few minutes on the actual device itself. Or I could click this button. So if I turn this on, this would mean that everybody in my organization, if they dial in and plug up the Catalyst, then they could get access to this pool of hours. This is one of the easier ways. That way you as the manager don't have to figure, okay, who's using Catalyst today, who's using it tomorrow. You can just say, well, let me just buy a bank of hours. We'll put everybody in there. And as the manager, I'll just watch that bank of hours. When it starts to get low, I'll purchase some more hours and put in there. That way people can use it as they need to. And again, you have 12 months to use up those hours that have been purchased. So I hope that answers that person's question. If not, certainly chat in again, and I'll be glad to get more specific. All right, so let me go back to the subscriptions for a moment. That's all I wanted to mention there. So this is where you purchase these subscriptions. They can be purchased from salespeople individually, but it's just as easy to go here online and make your purchase. You can also purchase the actual antenna itself. We have different mounting options for a backpack or poles or things like that also, depending on what your workflow is and what you need. Then we do have training as well. I'll talk about software in just a few minutes. You can purchase software from here and some other training also. Okay, let me flip back over to my PowerPoint. I mentioned about the corrections that are being used. And all I did at that time was talking about corrections based on a geographic constraint. A little bit more about how that geographic constraint plays in. So the corrections are managed by what Trimble calls a Trimble Corrections Hub. That's a real-time correction source that's available when you're using Catalyst, and then will allow you to vary what level of, or it controls those varying levels of accuracy. Trimble Corrections Hub uses RTX. Trimble's RTX correction service is available worldwide at various levels of accuracy. To get down to the tight level, then Trimble uses their own VRS Now network. That's why those really, I showed you the centimeter precision options. Only a few parts of the United States and in Europe had those very light blue areas. That coincides with the Trimble VRS Now network. So the idea is that you as the user don't have to manage much at all from your corrections. Bottom line is, if you need anything down to a decimeter in the United States, you don't need to worry at all about correction services. You just would pay your monthly subscription or your bank of hours, and the Trimble Corrections Hub manages all that on the back end. So it's really kind of, the idea is that you as the user don't have to pay attention to that. If you need less than 10 centimeters, then you do have to be more conscious geographically about where you're working. Okay, enough of that. Now what I want to do is I'm actually going to connect my device, and I'm going to walk out and kind of show you how things work. So give me a moment here. I'm going to switch screens. Let's see, Marissa, if you can turn my video off. I'm now going to share screen. Okay. All right, now you should be able to see my screen. All right, so the first thing to do, nothing's plugged into my phone right now. So I will get ready. I'm going to go ahead and start out with the external battery pack being plugged in, just so you can see how that actually does turn on, make a charge. Give me just a second here. So I'm plugging the different cables together. I guess I should have left my camera on for this part. Just a moment here more. Okay, so I think you can see my phone. So now I have my external battery pack plugged in. you should have seen on my screen there where it popped up and showed that it was charging externally. And I can see there in the top right-hand corner that it's being charged as well. So now I'm going to go ahead and Trimble Mobile Manager is the app that I'm going to open. Again, there's no charge for this app, but it does require a sign-in. So you do have to create a Trimble account to be able to sign in and use Trimble Mobile Manager. Again, no cost for it. It's just a way that Trimble can help manage the users and for diagnostics and things like that. So notice I get a message. Do I want Trimble Mobile Manager to connect to my DA1 antenna? I'll say okay. So now the software is connected to my antenna, but it's not currently using the antenna. Oh, and I already know one thing I forgot to do. Oh. So notice it was looking for a time. Let me show you two things. See my subscription there. So looking down the page, right now I'm not connected to the antenna. I have the option to make the connection. My subscription, I have a decimeter level subscription, and it expires December of this year. What I intended to show you was also how the on-demand works. So let me get that done real quick here. I intended to show you this on the screen of my computer, but I'm going back to that Catalyst on demand, and I'm adding in that particular user. So I've assigned that user. So now I'm going to touch the hamburger in the upper left, and I'm going to go to my Catalyst, and it's checking information on the server. So it's looking to see if I have any subscriptions. So now look, so now, and that's how fast things can change. So you as a manager in the field have easy access, you as a manager in the office have easy access to affect what's going on in the field. If somebody gets sick all of a sudden, has to go, is not able to work that day, and you need to assign it to a different person, it's a very quick process. I'm going to go back to the home screen. So now it's showing both my monthly subscription and also my on-demand. Now that's redundant. A customer wouldn't do that. I'm doing that just for the purposes of being able to show you how it all works. So I'm going to go ahead and connect, hit this connect button where I'm going to connect to the DA1 antenna. So it's connecting, and this takes a little bit of time. Here's a difference between using an R1 or R2 and using a Catalyst. Now I'm going to go ahead and unplug my external battery just so I can walk more easily because I don't have it mounted on a pole. I didn't like the fact that I disconnected it. And so now it's starting to make the connection to the DA1. And it asks me to wait for a sky view. It can see 4 different satellites. And you can see things start to connect and start working. So right now, out in the more or less the middle of my yard area. And it's going to take it a few minutes to get down to a certain level of accuracy. So watch what you can see in the top there. So right now we're within 6 foot, and it's autonomous. Then if we give that a little bit more time, it's going to switch over to saying RTX. And it'll probably take it 5 to 10 minutes. So that's where I'd like to mention here's a difference and a caution. Doesn't mean it shouldn't be used, but as the user, you just need to be aware it's going to take longer in the field to initialize with a Catalyst than it would a different type of receiver. So you just need to allow more time. So we've got people using Catalyst to do UAV ground control. Trimble actually has an app called UAV ground control. If you're using this for golf courses, we have several clients using it on a golf course. Just give it some time, plug it up, and let it get going. You can see now as I've been talking, I probably haven't talked for a full 2 minutes since they're connected, but close. They're down now within around 1 to 2 feet. Notice the color in the top left changes as I get better accuracies. So it's letting me know that I'm going in and out of a various level of accuracy. So I want to show you a few other things here in the Trimble Mobile Manager, which can be helpful to understand and control. Oops, screen goes to sleep. So the idea is that Trimble Mobile Manager manages the incoming information from Catalyst to then provide it to any other software on your Android device. So say it differently, I can use the Catalyst with any software that uses location services, whether it's Google Maps that you're driving with, whether it's Esri's Field Maps, whether it's Trimble's TerraFlex, whether it's Trimble's Pen Map, whether it's your favorite go-to point app that you've downloaded. Any of those can consume and use the information coming from Catalyst. I want to show you a couple of things here in the app. So first of all, down here at the bottom, notice, excuse me, my location sharing is on. So that means I am indeed sharing my location with any other applications on this device. The other thing I wanted to point out, that location sharing, okay, that is enabled partially by what's called your location services. So you have to set a mock location. Well, I'm not going to describe that right now. We'll kind of see how our time goes. If somebody has a question about mock locations, I can look at that with you right at the end. But you have to set mock locations, assign it to the Trimble Mobile Manager, and now I can share this location with any other application on the device. I'm going to touch on the hamburger in the upper left. Position source, here's where I selected it as the Catalyst antenna. And here's where, if you're in a store trying to figure out if you could use this for Catalyst, you don't physically need the Catalyst. You just go to this position source screen, choose the Catalyst, and it'll tell you if that device is compatible. And in this case, it won't say it's connected, but it'll give you compatibility information. Now I'm going to go to the status screen. For those of you that have used GPSs for a while, this is a nice screen. We can get a latitude, longitude. Notice it's giving me both my ellipsoid height and my orthometric height. One of the nice things about Trimble Mobile Manager is I can send out orthometric heights. So I don't have to just consume ellipsoid heights. I can actually get mean sea level information into my various applications. You can see our accuracy level now as we're down about half a foot or so. It's telling me now, here's my correction time. The source is ITRF 2014. That's the native correction datum of RTX, but I can transform that to whatever I need to. So in this case, I've said I want my output to be NAT 83 2011. And I've selected a geoid of 2018. Here I can get satellite information. So notice I've got 24 satellites tracked and I'm using 16 of them. So Catalyst uses GPS, GLONASS, and Galileo. An important qualification at this point. Right now, as you can tell, I'm online with my phone. And that's traditionally the way the Android device works with Catalyst. However, it is not a problem to use Catalyst when you don't have cell service. Now, if you're using on demand, you'll need to start your 1 hour before you get out of cell service, or go ahead and start multiple hours before you get out of cell service. The other thing to point out is that when you don't have cell service, then I don't get all 3 constellations. So I only have, I lose the GLONASS constellation when I switch to being not in a cell phone connectivity area. That's because with the Catalyst software solution right now, it needs that channel for the RTX information coming in via satellite. Right now, I'm getting the RTX information through the internet, not via satellite, so it can use all 3 of those channels for GPS, GLONASS, and Galileo. To give you an idea what that actually looks like, earlier today I was stuck, or not stuck, but I did turn mine on, so I didn't have GLONASS, or I didn't have internet connectivity, and here's where you can see the results were. So now it shows that I had 9 GPS satellites, I had 5 Galileo satellites, and I had 1 OmniStar satellite. Now, it says OmniStar. OmniStar and RTX are the same Trimble-owned technology. They're just using an older name for that particular satellite. I'm going to pause for a second and take a breath. Any questions that have popped up, Marissa?
No questions right now, but if anyone does have questions, feel free to ask them and unmute yourself, or ask them in the chat and we'll get them answered.
All right, so I want to go now to the GNSS configuration. This is where I talked about the Trimble Corrections Hub. This is where I also control my output. So I can control what type of output coordinate system that I would like to have. This output coordinate system control is important for any non-Trimble, and I would almost suggest non-Esri application. If I'm using Esri field maps, or I'm using PinMap or TerraFlex or Sight Vision, then I want to leave this as auto, and those other softwares will take control in doing that and actually connect a little bit differently as well. If I wanted to get several centimeters, where I live in the western part of Virginia, that I would, instead of the Trimble Corrections Hub, I would need to be using custom local. I'm not going to make that adjustment right now because then it will disconnect and then reconnect to the receiver itself. Notice in application settings, last thing I want to go to talk about Catalyst, here's where my share location is turned on. You want to make sure that's turned on. Notice the comment about battery optimization. Your phone will not work if, Catalyst and Trimble Mode Manager won't work if you've got battery optimization selected. You did hear me comment about the battery usage of the Catalyst, so you may want to think, okay, I want to optimize my battery. Well, when you optimize your battery, that restricts it from providing power to things like an external source. Okay, now what I wanted to do while I'm here on this screen, so we're down about 1/2 foot accuracy. So one of the differences or things to be aware of is how things function with, when we talk about tree canopy. So I'm out here in my yard, so I'm out in the open right now, so there's nothing really overhead of me at all. But you can see there's some pine trees over here on the edge of my yard. So I'm going to walk over there and let you just kind of watch the screen and see what it does as I'm moving towards that area. And give it a second to drop back down here. All right, so we're less than 2 foot accuracy. And you notice even when I switch between apps, the accuracy toggled a little bit. That's a characteristic of how Catalyst works. You have to be patient with it. In many places, it does very well. So I'm down within 2 foot. Now I'm like under the trees, and so you notice it's kind of jumped up. Now, if I stand still, as most receivers will, it will drop back down. But it's still not going to drop back down quite as fast as it normally would with a different type of receiver. Still works well under canopy. So notice down we're in that 1 to 2 foot range, which is not bad at all. I probably wouldn't be a lot different with an R2. There'd be some different, but not tremendously different. So again, you as a user just have to be aware of what these differences are. I'll walk back out in the open. And now back in the open again, the accuracy starts to drop. And I should stabilize now, go right around the 1 foot level. Now, a comment within the decimeter level, I should be getting in that 4 to 8 inch range. Well, I'm not there yet. Probably if I were stable, put this on a pole and left it out for about 15, 20 minutes, I feel very certain that I would drop down well below that 6 inch accuracy. Again, a difference of Catalyst and some of the other products. It just takes time. If you're out in the field and need to be in a hurry to collect lots of data in a short period of time, Catalyst may not be your solution. If you collect data maybe once a day for 10 minutes, 6 or 7 times a month, Catalyst could be a great solution. All right, now what I want to do, just so I can see the screen, is I'm going to walk back towards my deck here, is talk about the different softwares that can be used with Catalyst. So one of the first ones, I'm just going to show you collector, actually field maps. Esri and Trimble continue to work well together. And now you'll notice the accuracy is not going to be as good now because I've now moved back under an enclosed area. But I'm going to switch over to field maps. And so it's opening my map. Now I was connected with field maps to the Catalyst earlier, so it should go ahead and reconnect to it. And so now if I touch on my GPS accuracy at the top, then it's telling me sure enough it's connected to Catalyst. And I did that by in my provider information. I'll just go to that real quick. I'll get out of this map. So here, my provider information, have integrated selected. Remember that I chose to share my locations in Trimble Mobile Manager with other applications on the device itself. So that's why I use integrated inside of field maps. So then there on my map, you can open it back up, and now I'm within 3 feet or so. Notice I am getting a message. I'm not trying to teach you about field maps today, but you can see field maps is conscious that my location profile is not quite set up correctly for using the Catalyst. So I will certainly want to adjust that. Another time comment, now that I've been stable for a moment or two, you can see even though I'm under the canopy of my deck, I'm still dropped down within between 1 and 2 to 3 feet at the most. All right, so I'm going to actually close field maps, go back here, and now I will show you TerraFlex and also PenMap. But before I can show you those two, I need to disconnect from the Catalyst. I cannot have Trimble Mobile Manager and TerraFlex or PenMap connected to Catalyst at the same time. If you're using PenMap or TerraFlex with a monthly subscription, then I don't really need Trimble Mobile Manager. They'll sign in automatically, as long as I'm using the same sign-in. I guess I should qualify that. Then that sign-in will take place and it'll recognize your Catalyst subscription. However, if you're using the on-demand, so down here where it says start 1 hour, which I'll touch now, if I want to start a session, then I do need to do that before I open TerraFlex or before I open PenMap. So I'm going to leave this open for right now. I'm not connected to the DA1 antenna. And now we'll go to TerraFlex.
York, I did have a question while you're switching
Sure.
between these. So someone asked, can you download the raw data gathered in the field without having any of these softwares, or like TerraFlex, PenMap, and FieldMap?
Great question. Let me answer it 2 ways. When you say download raw data, meaning could you download the raw data and then post-process it for differential corrections? No. Are there data storage apps which collect data that you could download later? I'm certain there are. I don't know of which one of those are. Lots of people use Avenza. There's various other applications that will allow you to store information. So the answer is it would be app dependent. So you do not have to have TerraFlex or Field Maps or PenMap to collect and store data. Those are 3 of the options that there are. There are plenty of other non-Trimble options and non-Esri options out there which would allow you to store the data and then download it later. Okay, I'm inside TerraFlex. I'm going to touch my Trimble bars. I'm going to verify that I'm connected to the Trimble Catalyst. So it says my source up here is Catalyst, and my real-time configuration is using the Trimble Corrections Hub. So I'll go back over and look at my location status, and there it is. So now you can see my coordinate value. You can see the horizontal and vertical accuracy. I'm connected to 8 satellites, 12 satellites, and now you can see more information about the RTX. This is to tell you where it says RTX code, and we're using the internet. If I were out in the open, it would probably switch just RTX, still shown as internet, analogous to RTX carrier, if you're familiar with those terms between code and carrier. All right, I'll go back out of TerraFlex. Swipe that away. Again, Trimble Mobile Manager is still open, but not connected to the DA1 antenna. Now open PenMap. I had both PenMap and TerraFlex set to automatically log in. I'd made a trial project later. Again, not trying to teach you how to use PenMap, but just showing you how it indeed connects and works very well. I didn't like my point numbers before. Okay, so I'll go here. I'll connect to the DA1 antenna. So it's giving me information there. I can go back and just get a few more verifications. So my settings, my GNSS receiver, that's where I would set it as a Trimble DA1, a Catalyst DA1 antenna. So both those software is very compatible with the DA1 antenna. Again, I just switched it on, so it's not hasn't shown up with a position quite yet, but it's working on it. I haven't started it yet. Insufficient satellites. So it's connected. Again, it hasn't pulled in as many satellites yet. Okay, I want to make sure we do have some time to kind of open it up for questions. I'm going to stop displaying here and redisplay on my screen. Let's see if we can do that. All right, good. So let me go back to my PowerPoint for a moment. Again, just a comment about Catalyst being used for. It's for the user who needs GNSS incidentally. Not every day, not for 8 hours every day. If you need it for 2 hours, 3 days a week, could be a great solution. You need it for 5 hours, twice a month, probably a great solution. You need it for 6 hours every 6 months, also probably a great solution. Now, you can also use this slide says for individuals. You could also use it for small groups and for a large group of people. But again, I wouldn't want them to be out there trying to use the Catalyst for 8 hours a day, 4 to 5 days a week. It's going to be a frustrating experience. That's just not what Catalyst is designed for. It's a great product for people who haven't used GPS before but need to augment GPS with their other workflows. There's a couple of comparisons here. I'm not going to read through these. I'll let you scan and kind of look at them, but it just has a way of kind of couching the differences between these three products. Because again, that was one of our concerns as dealers when Catalyst was first released was, okay, what's it going to do to the product need for an R1 or R2? And it took a while, and with experience using, to use the R1 or R2. If you're not sure what the appropriate product is, let us know. That's part of the responsibility and what we enjoy doing as salespeople is helping guide people through that selection process to know which one's best for your environment. All of these products can be rented, or I should say the R1 and the R2 can be rented. Catalyst is a cheap thing to purchase and try out. So if you're not sure, you could rent an R2 for a week and buy a Catalyst and get a 1 month subscription and compare them and see which one works best for you in your particular application. A few more comments here that Trimble's helped us kind of give some guidelines between the three different products. I mentioned that Catalyst could be used with lots of different software. Any software you can put on your Android device can consume the locations coming from Catalyst. Catalyst is also starting to be used in a wide variety of other applications. In this case, you'll see a picture of Trimble Sight Vision, which is an augmented reality capability that Trimble has now. Just earlier this week, this was new to me. I didn't realize this. This is a GeoSlam. So it's a handheld laser scanner, not replacing LiDAR, it's a mobile handheld LiDAR or scanning type system. And now they're adding a GPS component, and one of the options is with Catalyst. Last thing I want to show you before I do stop for questions. Help.trimblegeospatial.com is a great place to go. We need guidance on multiple components inside Trimble. You have questions about TerraFlex or about PinMap, it's all here. Notice also the one on Catalyst. There's some video information about Catalyst, but here there's very specific information on getting yourself set up and going with Catalyst. And notice some videos down here as well. All right, I've talked a lot. We've got about 5 minutes left. So any other questions that have come through, Marissa?
So we did have some questions come through. They seem like they're more, personalized to people's specific situations. Sure. So at this time, if anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask them.
Great. Well, I certainly do appreciate everybody's time today. If you do have questions afterward, don't hesitate to ask us. In the email that Marissa sends out later this week, there will be our contact information in there. we're happy to answer questions, and certainly want to make sure that you're aware of how Catalyst can function for your particular application. So great. Thank you all very much. Have a great rest of your afternoon.